ultimately who's real and who's not, who's a contender, who's a pretender as we head into week 2.
We doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them out. I'm really biting, they just barking out. I'm really riding, they just parking now. His street, what to talk about. See the big.
Hey, before we get this thing started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, drop a comment. Let's talk about it, see how things are going.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Base Coverage, presented to you by Knoah Team, where I'm your host, Jamal Clay, and today we preview week 2 of the ELF. We got a lot of good games on slate. I'll talk to you about the one game that is my favorite game to watch this week and something that we all should keep an eye on, and we'll also make some picks and break down some games. But before we do that, let's dive into last week's picks and see how we did and how we panned out. Now, just so you guys are aware, for each week going forward in the ELF, I'll be making some picks against another person, media member, going up against each week. And the winner, hopefully I win. If Athletes Forum wins, we'll be giving out some free streetwear to a lucky contestant. And in order to enter that contest, what you have to do is you got to follow Knoah Team on Instagram. You got to follow Athletes Forum on Instagram. And then you enter in the chance to win some free streetwear, which I would love to get out. So let's take a look at the picks from last week's and see how we did. I went up against Joe from That American Football Show. You go check them out on YouTube. They have some great content. And this is how we did. Now, as you can see, looking at the stats here, we were pretty lockstep with our picks for the most part. Ultimately, I was able to edge him out, going 5-1 and last week, and Joe went 4-2. And the one game that decided that was the Vienna Vikings and the Raiders game. So thank you to the Vikings organization for getting that win and helping Athletes Farm get the win over Joe. And for that, I'm able to give out some free gear. All right. Now, shout out to our contestant who won some free gear this week. And again, to enter, don't forget to follow Knoah Team Wear on Instagram, follow Athletes Forum on Instagram, and you enter your chance to win some free streetwear. And we'll announce it every Friday before previewing the games. Now, we got a lot to get into. A lot of games this week, a lot of matchups, a lot of questions that are going to be answered about certain teams and certain players. So let's dive into that. But before we do that, here's a quick word from our partners over at Knoah Team Wear. Welcome back, everyone. Let's break down some games, make some picks, give you guys some things to look forward to heading into week 2. First game we got on slate, Raiders versus the Cologne Centurions. Raiders was a tough one to the Vienna Vikings last week, a real tough one. They actually outplayed the Vikings in some aspects of the games and gained them in rushing yards and passing yards. The thing that killed the Vikings was they weren't able to capitalize or bounce back from some of the big plays that the Vikings had made, hence losing a tight one and a rainy one in good old Innsbruck. The Cologne Centurions coming off a great matchup, the first game of the week last week against the Rams, winning only by 2 points. Definitely a high-scoring game. So I think this game is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the Raiders bounce back from losing to the rivals, the Vikings. But also, we get another look at the Centurions and going up against that Raiders defense, who was a tough match against the Vikings. The Centurions defense is much better this year, as we mentioned before. Shout out to Flamor Seaman winning the Chio Player of the Week. Definitely well deserved. Some of the questions I have going into this game is, how the Raiders secondary is going to match up to the passing game of the Cologne Centurions. I think it's going to be, definitely something to watch, especially with Quentin Pounds, Lewis Geyer, and those boys, and Kenyon Wainwright cut down on the turnovers. And if he could do that, then I think Cologne will be in a pretty good spot offensively. Their defense is going to do a good job at least keeping them in the game. But again, you give out those turnovers against the Raiders, I think it's a different ball game, especially when you got Shelton on the other side, a seasoned vet in this game. So it's definitely going to be a close game. My pick for the game, I'm going to rock with the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to pull this one out. Next game we got on slate for Saturday, we have the Istanbul Rams traveling to the Berlin Thunder. Now, it's only week 2, and I don't want to say it's a must-win, but forget it. It's a must-win for both teams. Both teams are looking to bounce back after heartbreaking performances. The Rams started off slow a little bit last week, but bounced back and got a little better in the second half, ultimately making it a close game against the Centurions. And let's just face it, Berlin, they didn't look great last week against the Sea Devils. They really couldn't get the running game going. The Sea Devils defensive line was wreaking havoc all day on Berlin. Joe really couldn't really get in a rhythm for the Thunder. So, this game right here is a must-win, which makes this game that much more interesting and intriguing. Istanbul going on another a road trip to Berlin back-to-back weeks. So we'll see how that pans out for them. As for the Rams, I think we got a good idea of who they can be with Tyrese Johnson-Fisher and Jalen Conwell on the outside, and some other proven weapons on the outside too, with some big wide receiver threats. I think heading to Berlin, what's going to be interesting is, can the Rams establish a run game early? Because as you can see, when the Thunder played the Sea Devils, Hamburg was not shying away from the run game. Actually put up, 52 attempts for 250 yards. So I think for the Rams to be successful in this game, they're gonna have to get the run game going early. One of the things I'm also gonna be looking forward to in terms of the matches is the Thunder defensive line versus the Rams offensive line. Kyle Kitchen and them boys, I'm gonna be looking to see if they're able to get after the quarterback, Jarrett, and see if they could make him make mistakes like he did last week. This one's a hard game to pick. It's definitely going to be a close one, but I think I'm going to go with the Berlin Thunder. I think the Thunder bounce back. I think they are a better team than what they showed last week. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Berlin Thunder pull this one out. Let's head over to the Sunday games. The Frankfurt Galaxy versus the Vienna Vikings. Now, this is going to be something to watch. The Vikings are the home team. They open up against the Frankfurt Galaxy, who lost a heartbreaker to the Rhine Fire, and actually old school rival back in the NFL Europe days. I think there's a lot to look forward to in this game. Obviously, the Vikings are battling a lot of injuries, but ultimately said, it's the next man up, and this is the game we all play. So it's going to be interesting to see how some of the new people that they acquired last week, how they get more involved in this offense, having another week under the belt. I think the Galaxy are going to bounce back. I think that defense is out to prove something. I think those guys are ready to get going. I mean, the Vikings, and when we talk about the Vikings, one of the things I'm going to be looking forward to is, how do they get the run game going? The Galaxy have a vicious front seven with Anthony Hoare and Vincent Buffett and Whale and Sebastian and Sebastian Gomez. Like they have some dogs up front. So I think if we want to talk about areas of opportunity, the Vikings are definitely going to test them vertically in the passing game. And I think that's something that we're gonna look forward to. So this is going to be a good game. This is a great conference game. Can the Vikings go 2-0 in the conference? Because if they do, then they're sitting pretty early in the season. So ultimately, I think this is going to be a good game. I'm going to roll with the Frankfurt Galaxy. I think they bounce back this week and get back on the shoes and get the ball rolling. And if there's one thing we know, I mean, obviously we're heading into year 2, but last year they lost the first game to the Sea Devils before winning the championship. I think this is a veteran team that knows how to bounce back, and they got the right guy. So I'm going to go with the Frankfurt Galaxy in this match. Next game we got on slate, the Wrocław Panthers versus the Stuttgart Surge. Now, I think this is a great game for the Stuttgart Surge to prove that they're not the team that we saw last week. Now, obviously we know, they're a young team, but ultimately now it's time for those guys to step up. I think the big thing for the Surge is they got to get up to a fast start and get the ball rolling. Their offense really couldn't get things going, only having a total of 100 yards versus the Barcelona defense last week. I think the emphasis is going to be to get off to a fast start, and they're going to need it because this Panthers team is real good. This Panthers team is real good. Dave Lyken and those boys are building off what they had last year. Only thing about this game is that I don't like the matchup for the Surge. I think, the Panthers offensively and defensively fare well against the Surge. Ultimately, I do want to see the Stuttgart Surge play a little better, but I don't think they'll be able to pull this one through against the Wrocław Panthers. So I got the Wrocław Panthers winning this game. Next game, we got the Leipzig Kings versus the Rhine Fire. Now, you want to talk about a game for the trenches, this is going to be the game. The Rhine Fire are a team with an experienced coaching staff. They want to run the ball. They're not shy about it, and then they're going to pass second. So against that Leipzig Kings front seven, they're really going to be tested. But the Kings defense is fast, it's physical. So I think even though that's going to be the matchup to watch, I think we'll learn a lot about the physicality of each teams and how both teams battle adversity. But like I said, and I said it earlier in preseason, I think the Fire might have the best offensive line in the league. So going against that Kings front seven is going to be interesting. The Kings this week signed Shantavius Jones, the former Berlin Thunder receiver. I spoke with him about the signing. He's excited. He's grateful for the opportunity. And I think pairing him with Anthony Dable-Wolf, Jordan Barlow's got the Twin Towers outside, and he's gonna have free range to throw the ball wherever, especially with the catch radius from those guys. So I think this is gonna be a good game to watch. It'll be interesting to see how the Fire secondary defend the Kings offensive with the receiver threats. Ultimately, I think the Leipzig Kings pull this one out, get their first win of the season against the Rhine Fire. But this game is going to be interesting to watch to see. Are the Rhine Fire going to be able to establish the run against that front seven, or are they going to rely on Matt Adams and Canoodle and Nathaniel Robitaille on the outside, to provide more balance, maybe get them more involved in the passing game to keep Leipzig defense off balance. So I'm picking the Kings, but it's going to be a good game to watch. Lastly, my favorite game to watch this week. This is going to be interesting because we're going to learn a lot about both teams, and that is the Barcelona Dragons versus the Hamburg Sea Devils. We got the number one, obviously it's been a week, but we got the number one rated defense in the Dragons versus the number 5 rated offense in the Hamburg Sea Devils. A lot of questions about this game. Is this the game Gene Constant, takes off and shows why the Sea Devils signed this offseason? On the other hand, though, if Dragons get off to a fast start, can Salih Cisse and the Hamburg passing game keep up with the Dragons offense and the weapons that they got over there? The Sea Devils, they want to run the ball. Obviously, 52 attempts for 200 and something odd yards. They're going to try to run the ball. But if the game becomes a high scoring game, I'm curious to know, are the Sea Devils going to be able to, keep up and keep pace? Because that's going to throw them a little off rhythm. Some matchups to watch. The Sea Devils defensive line versus the Dragons offensive line. The Sea Devils defensive line got after Berlin last week. Causing, I think it was 3 sacks and then 1 strip sack for a fumble. So I'm interested to see, what magic Zach has in the tank and what that defense has in the tank for the Dragons, and how they're going to be able to either stop the run for the Sea Devils or slow down that pass rush for the Sea Devils. This is a fascinating game. This is a great game to watch. This is my favorite game that I'll be tuning this week. For this game, I'm going to roll with the Hamburg Sea Devils to win this one. For our guest picker this week, we have a man that wears many hats. He is, my co-host on The Scoop. If you haven't check it out via our YouTube channel. He is the co-host of American Football in Finland. He is the voice of the North. He is not the voice of reason, but the voice that will happily give his opinion. I'm going to bring to you guys the picks from the one and only Mr. Vincent Perfect Purpose. And this is the person I'll be going up against this week. Don't forget, in order to enter into the contest to win some free gear, you got to follow Knoah Team, where you got to follow Athletes Forum on Instagram. And then if Athletes Forum wins and I beat Perfect Purpose this week, I will happily give out some free gear on behalf of our sponsors at Knoah Team Wear. Well, that's all we have today, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Again, this is going to be a fascinating week. This is going to be a great week. I'm interested to see, what pans out, what we learn, and ultimately who's real and who's not, who's a contender, who's a pretender as we head into week 2. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter as I reacting and talking about each games. Let's talk some ball. I'm interested to talk with everyone and see what everyone's thinking. And, it's going to be a fun week.
We doing everything they talk about. I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them out. I'm really biting, they just barking out. I'm really riding.